كلية الفقه الحنفي تقدم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. In the beginning we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us beneficial knowledge, and whatever we seek of knowledge, Allah ta'ala grant us the best of it and grant us the ability to implement the best of our knowledge, and to spread this knowledge, to fulfill the rights of this knowledge. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. So today we will be covering we kind of covered a little bit, but we will elaborate a little bit more on whose talaq occurs, which type of person's talaq occurs, and obviously opposite to that, which type of person their talaq, their divorce does not occur. So we'll elaborate on this. Will a person who's insane, a child, a person who's sleeping, will their divorces occur or not? We'll go into a little bit of that. And then also I think we'll also discuss the 3 divorces in one go. So this is a modern mas'ala that comes up a lot, that there's 3 divorces in one go occur. And if it does, then how many divorces is it? Is it 1? Is it 3? So we will discuss this a little bit more in detail inshallah today. Then we will also move on to discussing the different types of wordings that can be issued for a divorce. So we will discuss regarding the types of divorce in terms of wording, and we'll elaborate on what is the consequence of those wordings, what occurs as a result of that, which type of divorce occurs, and we'll just mainly be talking about the wordings, the type of elusive wordings of divorce. We'll go into a little bit of detail for, and as a result of it, what occurs. So I think that's the amount we'll get done today. So inshallah we'll go through that in detail, explaining this inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah. So next we move on. We just talked lastly about talaq of every husband will occur if he is, as long as he is mature and he is sane. So moving on from there, it then mentions that the talaq, the quduri we're talking about, which mentions that the talaq of a child will not occur, nor the talaq of a insane person. So we can understand the opposite, that if it's a child, they are not held accountable, so their talaq will not occur. Likewise, a insane person, they're not held accountable, so their talaq will not occur. Now, if a person has lapses of insanity, so they become insane, they also certain times they are sane. So then obviously the time when they are sane, if they give talaq at that time, it will occur. And the time when they're insane, the talaq at that time, if they issue it, will not occur. Then moving on, it says that the talaq of a sleeping person, a person who's not awake, will not occur. So if a person whilst sleeping sleep talks and gives a talaq, then this talaq will not occur. Likewise, if a person was unconscious, then again it's like the sleeping person. If during that time they give a talaq, then a talaq will not occur. So because a person is not held accountable for the things they say whilst they're sleeping, yeah. So unlike what people like to do, if a person if the wife or the husband says something in their sleep, you shouldn't hold them accountable to what they say, because Sharia doesn't even hold them to account. So anyway, the main thing here to understand is this. Then it mentions regarding moving on. I'm just going to skip the masail of the slave. I mean, it mentions the slave masail. I don't think it's very important. It just mentions just to mention the mas'ala. I'm not going to go into detail regarding it, but all it says is that the talaq of a slave will occur without the permission of the master. So unlike the nikah, when the slave gets married, he will need to take permission from the master. When he issues a divorce, there's no need for permission from the master. And likewise, the master can't issue a divorce on the slave's wife, thinking that I own everything the slave owns, because obviously the master does own everything the slave owns, but not the wife. When it comes to the marriage, the slave is in essence the owner of that talaq that he will issue. Anyway, that's that done. Next, before we move on to this next mas'ala in the book, I wanted just to elaborate and clarify that we talked about 3 divorces. Now, this is obviously something which is a very contentious thing nowadays. People talk about, how 3 divorces, and some people like to issue that 3 divorces is 1. And 3 divorces must be considered as, from the time of the Prophet, or they say things like this, right? There's a lot of evidences behind this all saying that 3 divorces is 3. The Sahaba radiallahu anhum made a consensus from the time of Umar Khattab, and Sahaba, we're not criticize the Sahaba, do we? We understand the Sahaba, kulluhum adul. All of them are just in whatever they do, whatever they say. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he mentioned alaykum bi sunnati wa sunnati al-khulafa ar-rashidin al-mahdiyyin. Likewise, there's so many other texts and evidences to prove that the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum, especially the khulafa, we were talking about the 4 rightly guided khalifs. Here we have in the time of Umar Khattab radiyallahu anhu, the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum make a consensus that 3 divorces are 3, not 1. So this is something that we need to understand. Likewise, from the Quranic understanding as well, where at-talaqu marratan fa imsakum bi ma'rufin aw tasrihum bi ihsan, and then Allah Ta'ala mentions regarding the 3rd divorce that if a person issues the 3rd divorce, then that's it, it's finished. That if a person gives the 3rd divorce, then فَلَا تَحِلُّ لَهُ مِن بَعْدُ حَتَّى تَنْكِحَ زَوْجًا غَيْرَهُ. So Allah Ta'ala talks about it as well. Not 3 divorces in one go necessary, but 3 divorces. So the idea is that 3 divorces is 3. The only reason that some people, remember, according to all 4 schools, all 4 schools are of this consensus that 3 divorces are 3. It's only certain people who like to follow what Ibn Taymiyyah has mentioned, because he went with accordance to a fatwa which his grandfather gave privately. His grandfather gave a ruling to somebody that the 3 that he issued in one go, he issued that to be 1. Now that may have been in a particular case, that may have been his opinion, we don't know, but Ibn Taymiyyah then obviously issued a general rule on this, being that his opinion is that 3 is 1. But obviously we don't go according to that, because many scholars will have their take on certain things, their own opinions on certain things. This is going against what the jumhur, what the majority of the Muslim world had the opinion of, and even till very lately had an opinion of. And nowadays, just people are just obviously giving 3 divorces, and there's no solution for them but to then go for this one particular single fatwa that was issued, and that's the reason why they want to take some sort of ease and they want to go towards this mas'ala. Obviously, to fulfill the following of a person's own desires, you can't just start picking and choosing in this way and going for this particular ruling. So this is very important to understand, that this goes against what the jumhur, meaning the majority, do say. Majority do say of the fuqaha we're talking about, the jurists do say that 3 are 3. So it's very important to, we get that this may be a problem, but the problem's solution isn't to make the 3 divorces that a person issued into 1. The solution to that problem is mass campaigning, publicizing, telling people about it, educating the people about it, that if you issue 3, it will be 3. So do not ever issue 3 divorces, because there's absolutely no reason why a man would have to issue 3 divorces in one go. Absolutely no reason why a person would need to do that. So why would a person issue 3 divorces in one go? It's a misconception, common misconception, which is across the board. A lot of people think this. In fact, majority of the people I deal with always think this, and it's a task to explain to them that you only ever need to issue 1 divorce. So they think that, why do I have to, are you sure? Like they're saying, are you sure? Then you have to present what the Quranic method is, even the how the Quran mentions it. So it's important to explain to people, to tell people that if you ever issue a divorce, then this is the way to issue a divorce. And I would say personally, how you would do this is when you find a friend or a close relative or somebody that you get on with getting married, then privately just make sure they know the ruling of divorce. And because we talked about previously as well how it's important that people understand the seriousness of this divorce, that when a person, even if a person is joking and giving a divorce, the divorce will occur, which we will talk about later. But so the point over here is that they should never mess about or never play around with divorce. Never, don't take it lightly. This is something very serious, very serious. And if you want to issue a divorce, then make sure you get a learned person involved so that they are able to guide you through how to give this divorce properly. So always teach this to the people and give them the basics, that never, ever, ever issue 3 divorces in one go. There is never a reason for you to do so, even if people tell you to do so. So I remember so many times I get phone calls of people that I've told this to, and unfortunately it's got to that point where they want to and they need to now issue a divorce. The wife is maybe even saying that, yeah, let's divorce. And sometimes she does, sometimes her family members, and sometimes it's his family members himself, like his own father is telling him that you need to give 3 divorces. So they phone me, and because I've already told them, and I clarify the mas'ala to them and I explain it to them, and alhamdulillah it goes the right way. So very important that we educate the people, and that's the solution. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Now moving on, next we go on to the 2 types of divorce in terms of wording. So in terms of the wording a person uses, there are 2 types of divorce. One is called sarih, the explicit divorce, and the other is the kinaya, the implicit divorce. So you got the explicit wordings of divorce and you got the implicit wordings of divorce. So the sarih and the kinaya. So these are the 2 types of divorce in relation to the wording a person uses. So if a person says, for example, you are divorced, or I divorce you, any wording of divorce which is a clear wording, this is now a sarih divorce. If a person says this, then a revocable divorce will occur. So a revocable divorce will occur. That's the first thing to understand. And also, so in essence, obviously this means that a person within the waiting period that now the wife will be in, he can revoke her. How he revokes her, we will talk about that later. So the point is that he can revoke her. It's a revocable divorce. And also what's important to understand here is that there is no intention needed. So the person, when he says this wording, as soon as he says this wording, the divorce would already have occurred without the need of clarifying his intention. We don't need to ask him, what did you intend by it? Even if he says, I intended something else, it will still be a divorce. Even if he says, like I said previously, even if he says, I intended to joke with you, or I was just joking, I was just mocking you, or I was doing whatever else, it will still be a divorce. The idea here is that we don't need his intention. As soon as he says, I divorce you, we're not even going to ask him what his intention is. Straight away the divorce will occur because it's clear wording, it's sarih as we call. So no need for intention, and that a raj'i divorce, which is a revocable divorce, will occur by this. And only one divorce will occur. So when he says, I divorce you, only one will occur by this. If he says afterwards, I meant 3 by it, or I meant 2 by it still will not be multiple divorces. It will only be one, because we don't need his intention, you see. So even if he says that I intended 3 by that, we say we don't need your intention. We don't consider your intention at all. So that's the reason why only one divorce will occur by it. I mean, in the Arabic, it does say that if a person used the word talaq, right? And the word talaq, because it's a masdar, for those people who understand, the Arabic there because it's a root word, and a root word has the possibility of the entire category, the whole genus, the whole jins. So because of that, because the genus over here, the category is 3, the full category is 3. So in this way, a person can intend 3, not because of the number 3, but simply because of it being the full category, right? Let's just say hypothetically, a person was allowed to issue 10 divorces. Then by using that masdar, the word that indicates towards the whole category, the whole genus, by using that, if a person intended the 10 divorces, then the 10 would have occurred. So it would have been 1 by default because he said the clear wording. But if he said that I intended the entire category here, then that means the entire category would be taken into consideration here, and the 10 divorces would have occurred. 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 9 would not have occurred. So hopefully this makes sense in terms of concept. But in the Arabic this works, obviously, in the masdar format. So if a person uses the word talaq, or like if he says anti taliq, for example, you are divorced. But if he uses, for example, talaqtuki, I have divorced you in the past tense, then, or I am divorcing you, then only one divorce will occur because this is a verb. There's no root word in that. So this is something that is considered because of the language, because this is a consideration within Arabic that the whole genus is intended. So this is, like I said, specific to the Arabic, and this is something which is discussed, and that's the reason why we've mentioned it. Now, it reiterates saying that there's no need for intention, and in this particular wording. So even if a person intended 2, it will only be 1. If a person intended 3, again, it can be 3 if the person, like it said, used the masdar. So that's the first type of divorce, which is a clear wording of divorce. Now comes the second type of wording, which is the kinaya, the elusive terms of divorce. Now, these are any other words which are not really coined for divorce. They're not coined for divorce. So like, for example, if a person says, me and you were separate, this is a bit on the explicit side, but it's not exactly divorce. We're separate as in, we're, not necessarily we're separating, but we're separate as in, it could be anything. We're separate people. We're like completely different people, that kind of concept or something, right? Likewise, any other wording a person uses, get out of here, right? He uses get out of here, or, I don't want anything to do with you anymore, anything like this. If a person uses, in the Arabic over here, it mentions that a person says, go look for another husband, or anything like that. So these are all they're implicit wordings, not explicit, implicit. So we're going to have to ask him his intention. The idea of the kinayat simply is that we need his intention. So in any kinaya, we will need an intention, generally speaking. And he has to clarify that I meant divorce by that. If he says I meant divorce by it, then one of two things will happen. So this elusive terms, kinaya, is going to now break up into 2 types of divorce. So generally speaking, the kinaya, the elusive term, will equal a ba'in talaq, meaning a irrevocable divorce, meaning he cannot revoke her in that waiting period anymore in order to get back together again. If he still has more divorces left, then they have to do a new nikah. They will have to get married again. Even during the waiting period, they can get married again, or even after the waiting period, they can get married again, but they will have to get married again. Whereas the revocable divorce is fully up to the husband. He revokes her, that's it, it's done. The nikah is still established, is still binding between them in essence. Whereas the elusive terms, which generally equal a ba'in divorce, which is the irrevocable divorce, so if that happens, then they will have to do a new nikah. So that's the difference between a revocable and irrevocable divorce. Irrevocable meaning that he cannot revoke it himself. He will need her consent now to do a new nikah. So this is the kinaya type of divorce. So hopefully this has made sense. So now moving on. So we said the kinaya type of divorce, which is the elusive term, and we talked about the sarih type of divorce, which is the explicit use of wording of divorce. Now both of them, to take it a notch further now, both of them, we said, generally will equal the sarih, will generally equal the explicit one, will generally equal a revocable. And the implicit will generally equal an irrevocable. But both of them can also be irrevocable and revocable. So meaning that if a person says, for example, a clear wording of divorce, the sarih wording of divorce, that will then break up into two. So you've got most of the times equaling a revocable divorce, but sometimes can equal an irrevocable. When will it equal an irrevocable? Is when he clearly says it. So when he clearly says that I give you a irrevocable divorce, then that's explicit wording. He's used the word divorce, but he's also said it's irrevocable. So then it will be irrevocable divorce. Or another example of it would be where we talked about before in our last session, that if a person gives his wife, who he has not done any seclusion with or any consummation or anything with, if he gives her a divorce, if he gives her a clear wording of divorce, then because she has no iddah, she has no waiting period, then straight away that would have been a irrevocable divorce, though it's a clear wording of divorce. So the idea is that this clear wording of divorce, the sarih wording of divorce, you break it up into two. The two is revocable, irrevocable. Generally it will be revocable. Sometimes it can be irrevocable, like I've mentioned how. Then we come to the kinaya, the elusive terms, and they also break up into two. Generally they will be irrevocable, but sometimes can be revocable. When will they be revocable? This is what the book discusses next, which is only in three types of wordings. And again, this works in Arabic because of the language. So this is, for example, when a person says to his wife, i'taddi. So i'taddi, though it's a elusive term of divorce, which means that count. Literally, i'taddi means start counting. Now, that is, what do you mean start counting what? So because you don't know until you ask him, okay, start counting your iddah. That's what he said. I mean that start counting your waiting period. So the only reason why I would start counting my waiting period is because before that you've issued me a divorce. So that's why, because a divorce has been issued, and divorce is a clear wording of separation, so that would issue a revocable divorce. That's why she is doing a waiting period now. So because he said to her, i'taddi, start counting, meaning start counting your iddah period, that will then equal a revocable divorce. Because the word i'taddi itself, you have to understand, it doesn't have the ability to issue a divorce. It's just because before it, a wording is demanded. There's something before it. Because the word start counting doesn't issue a divorce. That word in itself is not good enough to issue a divorce. So there's something before it which happened, and that's why she has to start counting her iddah. So what's happened before it? We're assuming that he issued her a talaq. That's what he means. So that's the reason why. And the word talaq, obviously, if it's before it, that means it demands a revocable divorce, because it's a clear wording of divorce, it's sarih. So that's the reason why i'taddi would equal if he means talaq by it, it will equal a revocable divorce. In the same way, istabra'i rahimaki, meaning free your womb. So free your womb, empty your womb, clear your womb. That's what he's saying to her. And this would in essence be, this is the concept of iddah, isn't it? One of the purposes of iddah is to free the womb. So he's in essence saying to her, in a roundabout way, he's saying to her, do an iddah. Free your womb, meaning do an iddah. So the same applies there. Why am I doing an iddah? Is because before that you issued a divorce. So a divorce is demanded before it, and that's the reason why she is now freeing her womb. So that would then mean talaq. Now obviously both of these words can be no talaq, right? If he says that start counting, start counting, and you ask him, what do you mean start counting what? Start counting the money that I've given you, or start counting the favors of Allah upon you, or whatever. It could be anything. Start counting what? Because that's why it's elusive. That's why we don't know what it means until he actually clarifies to us. Obviously, some people translate this i'tadi as start doing iddah. Now that's explicit. If he says start doing iddah, why am I going to do iddah? Because you gave your divorce already. So that is not that doesn't work here, because it doesn't have two different meanings, right? Start doing iddah doesn't have two different meanings. The idea of these kinayat is that it has at least two different meanings here. One is that it could be talaq, and the other is that it could not be talaq. Maybe it's not talaq. That kind of concept has to be there. Likewise, istabra'i rahimaki, it has a concept of iddah, right? It has the concept that you may mean that I have issued you a talaq, so start counting the iddah. But it could also mean, on the other side, it could mean that free your womb so that I can give you a talaq, because I want to see whether you are pregnant or not. And if you're not, then I want to give you a divorce. If you're pregnant with my child, then I may not give you a divorce. So the idea is that he hasn't issued a divorce yet. So that, because there's that meaning possibility, that's the reason why it's elusive. We don't know whether he meant talaq by it or not. So these two words, if he says that and meant talaq by it, it will issue a revocable raj'i divorce. Likewise, one wording left, which is anti wahida. You are one. So if he says you are one, what do you mean by you are one? So he may mean you are one, meaning you are issued one divorce. You are one, meaning you are one divorced already, given one divorce to. So because if he means that, then obviously anti wahida means anti taliqan wahida. We know anti taliqan tatliqatan wahida. You are given one divorce. So the word divorce again is demanded there. It's hidden there, and that's the reason why it will become one revocable divorce again, because the word divorce has been demanded over here. So that's the reason it will be a revocable. Hopefully these three words have been understood. Obviously anti-wahida could mean anything else, like you are the one and only for me. Yeah, you are the one, the only one for me. And that obviously doesn't mean talaq. That means that I love you so much that you're only one for me, right? So these are kinayat, these are words that are elusive, but all three of them will issue if he does mean talaq by it, by his intention, because the elusive, we need intention. Now we have the intention, it will equal a raj'i, a revocable divorce. So only those three words will issue a revocable divorce. And like I explained, this works in Arabic, generally speaking, and in the equivalent English like I used. But when it comes to the rest of the kinayat, it says baqiyatul kinayat, the remainder of the kinayat, only if he intends talaq by it, it will be a talaq, but it will be a irrevocable divorce. So he gives a whole long list of words to give us a concept of it. So for example, he says antiba'in, ba'inatun or battatun or batlatun or haramun. The words are meaning that you are separated from me, you are you are haram upon me, there's so many other wordings. Habluki ala gharibiki, your noose is around your neck. Alhiki bi ahliki, go join your family. Khaliyatun bariyatun, you are free again, you are free. Wahabtuki li ahliki, I gift you to your family. Sarrahtuki, I free you. Faraqtuki, I separate you. Anti hurra, you are free. Takanna'i, takhammari, istatiri. All of these are like cover yourself, veil yourself, cover your awra, cover your private area, or ughrubi, or uzubi, ughrubi, become a stranger to me, become a what we call bacheloress, become a bacheloress. Wabtaghil azwaj, go look for another husband. All these kind of wordings. There's many other wordings I'm sure you can scram. In English you can think of scram, get out of here. All of these wordings, if he meant talaq by it, it will be a talaq, it will be a divorce, and it will count as a irrevocable divorce. And if he means three by it, this is an important part to understand. If he means three, it will be three. So why will it be three? Is because the irrevocable divorce also splits up into two. So to understand this important part, that irrevocable divorce, any irrevocable divorce will split up into two. It will either be a khafifa or a ghalidha. So a khafifa type of divorce is a lighter form of divorce, which is only one, which is one divorce, irrevocable. And if he says, I meant the ghalidha form, the heavier form of talaq ba'in, the irrevocable one, that will equal three all in one go, meaning I meant the ghalidha form, the heavier form of talaq. So these are two types of irrevocable divorce. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So alhamdulillah, today we've been able to go through from the beginning talking about whose talaq occurs. So we talked about a child, an insane person, and a person who's sleeping. Their divorces will not occur. Besides that, everybody else, their divorces will occur. So that was the summary of that. Then we also went into talking about three divorces. If a person issues three in one go, whether he says talaq, 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 I give you a divorce, 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 or if he says I give you three divorces in one go, it will still all be three. It will occur, three will occur, not one. Yeah, we're not making three into one here. Yeah, we're making three is three. So that we discussed as well. And obviously the importance of spreading that knowledge and making sure that young people that do get married, they understand the gravity of, especially men understand the gravity of this, and making sure they never issue three. So that's a very important message that we want to spread, inshallah. Then we went into talking about the two types of divorce, sarih and kinaya. Yes, the explicit and implicit words of divorce, or the elusive words of divorce, and what it equals. So if you remember, if we just draw out this, it might be easier for people to follow. You've got a talaq at the top, and talaq is two types. One is the sarih, and the other side we've got the kinaya. So the sarih, the explicit wording of divorce, the clear wording of divorce, or you got the implicit wording of divorce on the other side. So the explicit wording of divorce then also branches up into two. One is that which equals a raj'i divorce, a revocable divorce, which is clear, which generally is the case, and on the other side you have a irrevocable type of divorce, the ba'in type of divorce. So raj'i and ba'in, both of them will equal. On the other side we have same two branches, you can say, that the kinaya will have. So the kinaya type of divorce, the elusive terms or words of divorce will break up into two, which generally is going to be the talaq ba'in, the irrevocable divorce, but it can also be the revocable. And the revocable we talked about is only going to be three words. It's going to be i'taddi, start counting, istabra'i rahimaki, free your womb, and anti wahida, you are one. These three wordings will equal a talaq. It will be a raj'i, a revocable divorce, though it is a kinaya. So it's the kinaya, we still need the intention in all of the kinayat, remember. And in sarih, we do not need any intention. Okay? So this is the concept of everything that we have done today. Hopefully everyone understands.